has something to do with your dates.
Yeah.
You're like, what? Hey, tell me what day.
What time was it? Was it 3:32 or was it 3:33? Because I need to know the difference.
I need to know the exact pinpoint number.
Hey everybody, it's Twin Soul Poets. We are your go-to couple for love and relationship advice,
dope spoken word poetry,
and uplifting content.
Yeah.
If you've ever wondered if astrology can help you meet your twin flame or your soulmate, you are definitely going to want to check out this conversation that we had with Pernell Bobby.
Yes, and make sure you comment below your Mars, Jupiter, and Venus signs so that you can get response from Pernell Bobby himself, digital nomad, astrologer, intuitive extraordinaire, and make sure you check out his channel with the link below.
And please be sure, as always, to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing, uplifting content and inspiration for your love life.
Hit subscribe now. Do it now.
Yes, and we are so hyped and happy to be here with Pernell Bobby. And I want to jump into some really interesting things today. But first, we would love for you to just share with everyone a little bit about what you do before we get into it.
You know, a lot of, I guess, my career when it first started off, I wanted to just speak to people. I felt like I had a gift with my voice and just being able to speak and be able to inspire and be able to lead. And a lot of that kind of began out in the space of exercise, actually. I went to school as an exercise physiologist. That got me obsessed and hooked on behavior change, because exercise was behavior, no different than smoking a cigarette. And so if you wanted to change your behavior, you had to learn about the mental processes that people went through. Then my life just kept progressing and it went more into kind of the personal development space. I began coaching as a means to travel and be able to kind of hop online. This is about 4 years ago, I think. And then out of nowhere, it seemed like I just had this feeling. I was like, man, I just want to be able to travel and do it from anywhere. And then the digital nomad culture popped up and people were like, are you this digital nomad? And I was like, what the hell is that? And then eventually it hit me. It hit me eventually. It's like, oh, I guess this is what it is. I guess I'm already doing it technically, but you know, and things just kept progressing. And so because that psychology piece was really where I would even say like had somewhat of an obsession with, even for myself, that's where it really, really began. Like, I had my own troubles, like I think all of us. And I couldn't navigate, like I felt like the alien, no matter where I was at, nobody ever understood me. And, you know, you start doing little psychology type tests, like, what's it called? Myers-Briggs, little things like that. And it's like, oh, you know, you're 4% of the population as an INFP. And I'm like, okay, maybe that makes a little more sense. Like we're down to, I don't know what 4% of the population is in the actual number, but that made more sense. And things like astrology is where it ended up getting me to then, because from there, I was able to navigate with the net 4%, you know, through astrology and start diving into my natal chart, start diving into my snapshot of, you know, where the stars and the planets were aligned at the time of my birth. And I started implementing that into my coaching, because then it allowed to kind of shortcut a lot of things where, you know, people don't always want to talk about themselves. And when they do, they talk about themselves to a point and then they stop. Wherever that insecurity lies, that's where they stop.
Right.
Exactly. So I started implementing into my coaching, and you know, now I'm here. You know, now I'm here. I'm meeting you guys, and you know, somewhere along the journey, I came across one of my own personal twin flames, which I guess yes, there's only one. And then I started learning like, okay, what is a twin flame? And then you know, what's a soulmate? And then like, what's the difference between a twin flame and a soulmate? And then you know, my next obsession behind the psychology of that kind of came in, and that's when I came across your videos. And from there, you know, the Twin Soul Poets, I love poetry, I love writing, which is also in my natal chart, and I love creativity as a whole.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Like, I just think that your life and the way that, you know, we can see it digitally because we've actually not met in person seems like a testament to like this exploration that you went on.
Sure.
And, you know, from your inner exploration of the psychology of yourself, but then also the spiritual aspect, which I know that Hamilton and I are both into, and I'm sure Hamilton would agree. Like looking at your Instagram page and the things that you share, it just seems so authentic and very resonant with the things that you're talking about. And so we're really interested to see like how that took you into the world of astrology to the point where you're now able to help other people understand these aspects of themselves? Well, we just had a few questions we wanted to start out with for some of the people who watch both of our channels and might not be as like versed.
Yeah.
But the first one is that many of the people subscribed to our channel, we know, are wanting to meet their soulmate or their twin flame. Can you explain like why they should consider using astrology to help them do that, and then like what information they'll need if they want to get started?
So the information you need, I think many people know at this day and age, and it's always like if you're a guy out here listening and you get that girl that asks you, hey, what time were you born? And they're like, I don't know. And they're like, well, ask your mom. That is somebody looking up your natal chart because they already know your birthday.
Right.
And they can probably guess what city you were from. So when she asks as a secret spy, what time you were born, that's all you need. You need the time of birth. You need the date that you were born. Generally, she's going to know your birthday. And then you need the city. She might know that because you had base conversations. So anyone out there, you get somebody, and I'm not going to just say this only from a girl standpoint. I do think that females are a little more into it in this day and age. And I think that's one of the things that makes it unique. Like, I mean, I'm a black guy from the tri-state area, you know, using astrology. So it's already like, wait, what? So I can't sit there and say like the guy won't ask either because they're coming.
That's something to do with your dates.
Yeah.
You're like, what? Hey, tell me what day you
what time was it? Was it 3:32 or was it 3:33? Because I need to know the difference.
I need to know the exact pinpoint number. Don't give me 3 o'clock. Oh, around. As soon as someone says around 3 o'clock, I'm like, 3:30 what? 3:32? 3:31? Yeah.
Why should people then consider using astrology once they have that information? Why should they care? Why should they use this to help navigate their love life?
So, you know, I studied as a scientist, I told you in the beginning. As an exercise physiologist is what I ended up becoming by the end of my, what do you call this thing, academic career. And here's the thing about science, you know, science is observation and experimentation. But science in many ways, and one of the reasons when I stepped out of the field, like, and did it more for myself is it's flawed in many ways where we bank on science in the sense where it's exact, but it's observation and experimentation. Now, astrology is a form of science. Here's why I love it. It's an exact science. There's no fluff. You know, you still have to make your own personal interpretations from what you're observing, what you're picking up from the science. Every astrologer is going to interpret things a little bit differently. But the planet is where it is.
Planet ain't going nowhere, right?
It ain't going nowhere. Like, it has a cycle. It has a cycle. It has a position. Certain things are going to move in certain ways, but all of that stuff, we can map that out.
And it does feel powerful to think about, like, you know, when you're born, the planets are in a very specific spot just for you, you know, and that does feel very significant and humbling at the same time to think about for me.
Just because you said that too, I want to bring this just into the equation as well. Somebody told me once, and they were very convincing with how they said it. It's like, imagine if before you died, you told yourself what life path you needed to live next. And you chose your parents and you put the time of birth because you knew this is the cycle I'm going to live. Now, throughout that entire life cycle, from a baby, you still got to be nurtured. So you got to pick the parents who's going to nurture you in a certain way. You might need to pick the abusive parent. You might need to pick the parent who's rich. You need to pick the parent who is, whatever the situation is, the situation. They're split or they stay together and they're this happy, connected family. And that all begins to shift your life path. And when I recognize that, I think it's not so far-fetched because we're talking about twin souls, right? Like we're talking about two people sharing one soul. We're talking about soulmates. We're talking about things that can't be touched. They're not tangible. You start recognizing you leave blueprints. You leave crumbles, a cookie crumbles. What is it called? Hansel and Gretel. So the life before you reincarnate, you leave these little cookie prints, and you're rediscovering them. You know, just remembering who you are as you go back through your life cycle.
Yeah, that's deep. I mean, that's definitely been a big part of our relationship and something we talk about a lot with like the twin flame dynamic is how much mentioned hyperbolic chamber. This relationship, this dynamic feels like a hyperbolic chamber for like remembering yourself. It's like the constant mirroring going on and constant like learning and opportunities for personal evolution. But the evolution doesn't so much feel like becoming something different. It feels like becoming more of just who you are. Next question we had was so most people have heard like the question, what's your sign, right? Like what are some combinations of signs that you would say work well together or not so well?
I like this question a lot, and when I ask a lady when her birth time is, these are some of the things I'm looking for. Generally, water and earth, they go very well together. And other than that, fire and wind go well together. There are 12 zodiac signs, right? There are 3 waters, there are 3 earths, there are 3 fires, and there are 3 winds. When you're looking at a relationship, you're looking at a love interest, you want to look more at your moon, which is your emotional inner world, like what brings you emotional inner security. You want to look at your Mars, which is like how you take action even within that relationship and including your sex drive, right? And you also want to look at your Venus, which is like what you value and what you think is beautiful and what you're attracted to within love.
So your moon, your Mars, and your Venus are really
exactly
kind of the foundation of looking at a relationship. And obviously
within a relationship, yes.
Your sun sign can give some general information, it sounds like, in terms of elements, wind and water and different things like that. But when you're looking at, okay, creating a relationship, that's where you want to go on your charts.
It's the first 3 places that I look at for people. And as well, I would say it's important your ascendant, because whatever your ascendant is, the opposite axis is your descendant, and it's going to be what you're attracted to. So Hamilton, your ascendant is a Cancer, which means your descendant is automatically going to be a Capricorn. Right. And Ingrid, your ascendant was a Capricorn, which means your descendant is automatically a Cancer. Did you just see how that worked?
Yes, that's very interesting.
So you guys are the twin soul poets. So you're automatically going to be attracted to the opposite, and that's what you guys are.
So it's that, it's like Hamilton said in the beginning, it's like that mirror, that balance, always feeling like you're looking at yourself. That's a really cool example for everybody watching of how you can get that deeper understanding of why the dynamics feel the way they do. I mean, it's really fascinating. Can someone generally like use astrology to find their best times to meet someone? Times of year, times of day, seasons, months, things like that.
Yes, guaranteed. And today happens to be Valentine's Day. It's a special edition, ladies and gentlemen, but that is not going to be automatically the best time to meet or not meet somebody. In actuality, astrologers think it's very funny that Valentine's Day is an Aquarius season, because Aquarians don't really care.
That's so true.
They don't care about that love joint, because Aquarians, they're the last wind sign. So again, like I said, they are in this space of the last 4 elements, who is more for humanity's purpose. They're not here for their personal reasons. That's like those first 4 elements. And they're not here for those partnerships in the middle, those 4 elements in the middle. They're here for the survival of who comes 5,000 years from now. This is how far in advance that they're thinking. They're the revolutionary sign whose love actually transcends all things human attachment.
It's that age of Aquarius feeling, it's that
age of Aquarius feeling.
Going as humanity, what are we exploring?
They want a soulful divine love. So they actually don't even technically have sex a lot. And when they do, they're actually very weird and kinky about it. And they actually still love it, yes. But the thing is, like, they supersede it where they could have sex 3 times in a year and they're like full, because they recognize that this is above the human body. It's a spiritual union with them. So that's what's ironic about Valentine's Day, because we treat the holiday like, oh, just because it's Valentine's Day, you're supposed to give in, or you're supposed to. And they're just like, they break the rules and they make the new ones. So when they hear something like that, they're automatically going to usually just feel a disdain for Valentine's Day because of how society has shifted its narrative.
When somebody's doing this work, especially I want to give people specifics for this upcoming year. And I know this is going to be general because we don't have people's charts in front of us, but are there some times that you would say, yeah, this is a great time to kind of be focusing and honing in on your manifestation practices for love, or, attracting that relationship?
Sure. So when you say manifestation, you already want to think 6 months out, right? Like it takes about that 6 month span, like at a minimum, for things, whatever you manifest today, to really come out. So that's a starter. Why I say this is because what month is it now? It's February. Libra season is the first that comes to mind, because Libras are the balance beam. What this also means is relationships. Libra runs the house of like relationships and partnership. The opposite axis of a Libra would be an Aries. So Aries is like the house of self. They run self. Libra is the opposite axis, which is the seventh house, and they run the house of partnerships. So in Aries season, that'd be like not the time, because everyone will naturally feel a little more selfish.
So that's what we're coming up on now. Aries, that's an April. So that's going to be a time for self-focus more than creating partnership. And then Libra is, for people who don't know, that's in October. You're talking about mostly in the month.
Yep. I think it might be like the end of September going into October. Off the rip, that is one of the seasons that like people are always, even if they were selfish, they're always a little more like, I'm willing to partner.
Okay, so if somebody has somebody out there that they're kind of been exploring with, and it might have been an off and on thing, but there's definitely a connection, revisiting that in a real way in October, or that might be the time to ask those questions that we encourage people to say, or to express yourself, fully with your heart and see where they're at. The Libra season could be the time to do that.
Exactly. Now here's what's interesting, right? Because you can really map this out really well. They should bring this up. Libra is number 7, but before you get the relationship, you have to go through number 6. Before number 6, you have to go through 5. So just to give a brief, like, I won't do the whole thing because that'll take too long for now, but number 6 is Virgo season. To get to number 7, you have to do Virgo type things. That would be something simple like, they're very analytical. Virgos are very analytical. They're very methodical. We need them in the zodiac because they catch all the details that everyone else would just say, it's such a small, minute detail. We don't need to do that. Virgos are like, yes, you do, and here's why. And they'll prove it and they'll show it to you. And they're right. They run our health habits and our routines. This is something like making sure we have a self-care day. So if you don't do that and learn how to set boundaries, which Virgos are bad at, they're bad at setting boundaries. This is why you can't get into the relationship or have the relationship if you didn't have your own boundaries prior, if you didn't have your own self whole before you tried to connect with the next partner.
Totally. I love that, because a lot of things are how to prepare for love. It's that preparation. And so much of it has to do with self-care, releasing old ties, things like that. So I definitely encourage like people listening to take a look at what he's talking about here and look at, okay, how can each sign and what those habits and qualities are, like, inform me of how I can prepare for this love. I'm totally behind
the
that.
idea of like going with the flow of the universe, and like instead of sometimes life feels like we're swimming upstream when we're, our intuition and our bodies are kind of telling us you need to rest, but you're like, no, I need to be really productive and I need to get all this stuff. And it's like, sometimes if you feel like you need to rest and just life's telling you to rest, or if it's your time. So it makes sense that learning about astrology, at least on a basic level, could really be helpful for like, okay, what is my time telling? What am I supposed to be doing now? What am I supposed to be nurturing now?
Well, before we jump into like our chart stuff, because I'm definitely curious about your interpretation, is there anything that comes to mind as like one of the most amazing or interesting things that you've experienced happen through the use of astrology?
Yeah, you can tell the future.
Yeah, I told us the future. Great answer.
No, like that's the interesting thing, like, and not only that, because okay, I make a joke about you can tell the future, but there's like 80% truth in that. The difference is you don't get to tell how the future is going to play out. You know what's going to happen. You just don't get to pick and choose how. And I think it's not just about the predicting the future part, but also being able to handle the present, because these shifts cost. us our peace in a sense. They cost us our comfort.
Right. But that's
So
where all the growth happens, right?
that's where all the growth happens. I think astrology does offer that as well. Allows you to just be like, oh, okay, well, I
Mhm.
get what's happening right now, because we're that much more afraid when we just don't know what's happening. And it's just like, it just seems like, man, my car broke down and I can't pay my bill this month. And we're thinking about it from a very basic standpoint. But when you can recognize and look at astrology for a second and say, mm, uh, okay, okay, I get it. This sucks. It still sucks. It still sucks. But
Like
you
that
know,
bird's eye view that's saying, okay, well, I'm understanding this in a deeper way.
mhm,
So I don't have to stress out about it as much.
Yeah, it is kind of freeing, and you don't have to personalize it as much. Be like, what is wrong with me? Like, I just
that's the thing. That's the word. You don't have to personalize it. That was the word.
So I just kind of want to hand it over to you, if you're okay with that, Hamilton, too, and
Yeah.
kind of jump in a little bit to our personalized stuff. And maybe if you can kind of use us as an example to help other people who are interested, because I'm sure a lot of people are interested in working with astrology,
Mhm.
kind of giving an example of how that might compare to their own experience.
Sure, sure. So, um, I told you already, just to kind of backtrack, when you're looking at a relationship, at least from a planetary standpoint, you want to really view your moon, which is your inner emotional world, okay, and what brings you security from an internal subconscious level too. Your moon is the moon. Notice the moon is hidden a lot. You can't always see the moon when you look up in the sky at night.
Mm.
So this is also in part representation of our subconscious, our hidden unconscious mind, our hidden unconscious emotional triggers. A twin flame dynamic really brings up those hidden unconscious triggers at an accelerated rate.
It
Right?
do.
it does.
See what I'm saying?
It do.
So look there more. Okay. And then but that's like when you're dealing with, you're already in the relationship, or you're trying to understand the relationship you have with yourself.
Okay.
Okay. Even prior, even during the twin flame dynamic,
Mhm.
you can want to understand your own your own emotional triggers, and it helps when you can look at your partner's chart and you can understand their emotional triggers.
Mhm.
So for all those watching, the moon is where you can understand those emotional battles that your partner is going to go through and that they are going through, and allows you to kind of just say, look, I can ease up right here, but I can't ease up right here. Right here, here's my non-negotiable. But now, because I know this is my non-negotiable, I know this is part of my life path within my emotional world, I can express that to my partner. So if I looked at your chart just for the moon for this particular example, okay, Hamilton, your moon is in Pisces and is in the 10th house. I'll tell you what that means in a second. Let me look at Ingrid's. And Ingrid, your moon is in Scorpio and is in the 9th house. Okay, so off the rip, you have two water elements.
Right.
So they're naturally going to pair well because they understand from an intuitive standpoint that they get each other in a sense. They both get each other.
We don't have to
Um,
explain a lot to each
you don't
other.
have to explain a lot emotionally. It's going to be a lot of telepathic communication. It's going to be a telepathic understanding of emotions. So Hamilton, almost even more than Ingrid, Hamilton will probably be much more submissive from an emotional standpoint, because Pisces shares the axis of Virgo, and Pisces doesn't have boundaries. Virgo has no boundaries either. But um, Virgo is Earth, and it. See, this is why you got to understand axes. So Virgo is Earth; it's grounded, and they both suck at boundaries. It's the part they share on that axis. But um, Pisces is theoretically the most spiritual sign.
Mhm.
It is the most detached from the ego. Now, where Scorpio would struggle with, Scorpio is at the brink where it can see all human existence prior and it can see all spiritual existence after. They're researchers. They can see the unseen. They can look at something and they can tell the story without the person talking with their eyes. It's one of the Scorpio traits. But as a part of it, they share the house of they're on the house of death, sex, rebirth, and for this particular example, shared resources. So because they can see all human existence prior and because they can see the spiritual existence after, they this is where the attachment comes. because they like, I have what I have and I want to keep what I have, and I don't want to let go because I know what the human life is like, I know what the spiritual life is like, and I kind of want both. Pisces would be more submissive in this because one, they don't have boundaries, and two, it's the most detached from the ego. Scorpio is not the most attached in the ego. Scorpio has to continuously, throughout its entire life, let go of new versions of egos that they find and discover and investigate, because they're investigators, they're researchers, they see the unseen. So this is their constant battle. And Scorpios are warriors. They're one of the three ancient warriors: Aries, Scorpio, and Capricorn. So when all hell breaks loose, not just on Earth, but every other plane of existence prior, um, those three warriors, they're forced through an initiation process, Aries, Capricorn, and Scorpio, to come out of their human body and let go of things that they just couldn't for years, months, their whole life, whatever. So those three warriors actually just within the last year, I think November, December, and even like 3, 4 months prior to that, they went through hell. But they went through hell because they had to go through an acceleration process, because it's like, look, humanity's hope is on the line. We need you three to step up, which means we need you to let go of stuff. Scorpio is one of the ones where they have difficult time because they can see all planes. They can see both. Pisces, on the other hand, they can understand all planes, which is different. They intuitively understand it because they're completely detached from the ego. So just from that emotional world standpoint right there, Hamilton will help you a lot to recognize maybe even the benefits of not allowing your ego to run the show more than what you know will come, because a Scorpio will know, if I let go, I know that on the other side there's better to come. And Hamilton would be able to potentially ease that process, because he's showing you, look, without the ego you could flourish. Like, things don't have to be so tough. You can allow yourself to flow like the water element that you are. You don't always have to be a warrior in every instance.
Yeah, that's definitely a message I've been getting lately as well. And just even
Super relevant.
doing some practices, like we've been doing Kundalini yoga and things like that together, like that has helped facilitate that trust,
Yes.
that flow. So
Yeah.
that definitely resonates. That feels.
And I also want to say sorry, because this is why I tell people, never give your natal chart to anybody. Like, it's a complete exposure. Like,
It's yeah. I mean, it was very very.
I mean, for me, like I just talked about this to somebody recently. Like, I've never felt so like closed off about myself, like my isness of me, my humanness, in terms of sharing it, because it feels like any time that I do is the times that people say they're the most inspired. Times that I'm really just kind of being me all the way. Even Hamilton was saying this last night, when I'm just kind of in my fullness and my truth, whether that's super emotional or whether that's being very transparent about a struggle or whatever. Those seem to be the times that people want to connect with me the most. And people say, oh, you've inspired me so much, thank you for sharing. So I've always felt pretty comfortable with having that openness at a young age.
And me too. And for anyone that's might be watching that's somewhat new to our channel, like we share a lot on our channel. Like there's a lot of very personal topics and things that we'll dive into, because that's part of our intention with Twin Soul Poets, is to use our experience, all of it, to help other people.
And the twin flame dynamic for us very much feels like that. It feels like being vulnerable, being open, sharing in a real way, because that's what we feel like is one of the missions we have as twin flames to give to the world, is to give that example based on what we're actually experiencing, to hopefully help other people come into the fulfillment that's possible, that we're still exploring.
Being able to do that as a team and sort of have a baseline commitment to, when we have challenges, we're going to grow from it and we'll help each other do that. Like, we've both seen tremendous benefits from that.
Absolutely. And I'm looking right now, because what you just said, it popped up in your chart. I was able to, when I did a little research the day before, your chart speaks for the fact that, like, that you two will be in business together. It speaks that you're going to have grand wealth, you know, quite frankly, like together, especially. Like you're gonna,
I'm very receptive to that.
yeah, yeah. And so, but there's other things that has signified that, like, you two sharing this twin flame journey. When I looked at your chart, it makes perfect sense. Like, um, you guys have a lot of emotion that you're here to communicate out loud
Yeah.
on public stage.
Yep.
So,
and that's why we're both actors. I mean, it's like that place where we can flow that emotion through in a way that's also healing for ourselves and that child self, and for the people who are watching. And
exactly.
why we both resonate with acting so much.
Yeah.
No, really.
I introduced him to that. He introduced me to the poetry, and I introduced him to the acting, and like it kind of came together in this really cool way where we're now both doing both things.
And
a lot of that's your Cancer placements, by the way.
Yeah. To me, I was attracted to acting immediately when I actually sat in on an acting class and saw what it is, because it looked like the same thing to me that I knew spoken word to be, which was just doing this on stage, ripping your heart and soul open. And I never realized that acting was that too, but it totally is. It's more taking the mask off than it is putting a mask on. And so yeah, like I definitely feel like that's my calling, and like our calling together is to kind of just do that.
Yeah, you got. So if I looked at your Mars, just to kind of like tap on that, your plan of action. Where your desires lie, where your passionate desires lie.
Where these buckets of money is coming from.
Buckets of money, it's right in his Mars. So, Hamilton has a very strong Mars placement. He technically has the strongest Mars placement, and it's in Capricorn. So certain planets are exalted or really respected in certain zodiac signs. So Mars, planet of action, naturally ruled by Scorpio and Aries. The planet itself, more by Aries. Scorpio is like, this shifted it into Pluto, the transformation planet, the one that has to let go and transform. Death, rebirth, ego phase. Death, rebirth, ego perspective. Death, rebirth, ego perspective. The more you allow the death, the more you allow the rebirth, the better that perspective comes, because you're going to be able to now also help Hamilton to direct his efforts, and he's going to be one who really can push things forward, because Capricorn is a masculine energy. It's in Mars, so it's super strong in that Mars. He can push energy forward, but he has it in his 7th house, which is Libra, shared. You're his shared side. So when he gets to partner, that's when he works with his partner in business, that's when he can help push forward. And if I went back to Ingrid and where her Mars is at, she's looking in. So I have a Cancer Mars. So again, these are both cardinal signs. There are 3 qualities. I have a book that is actually being published right now that speaks about all the stuff I'm talking of. There are 3 qualities. Cardinal energy, it's forward moving, push forward energy. They may not always finish a project, but they jumpstart projects for sure. You have fixed energy, very stubborn, stuck energy. They can build for a long time. Long time. They may not finish anytime when time you want or when other people want, but they're fixed, they're stubborn in their habit, and they're like, they got a plan. So they have difficulty starting up, but they can maintain. And then you have mutable energy, who was like, these are the ones who really finish the projects, the mutable sides. They're able to flow, they're able to hit a roadblock and just move around it. But they really can finish projects. So both of you have within your action, your strong desire, your passionate, forward moving energy, you have cardinal signs, Cancer and Capricorn. They're both cardinal. So they push things forward. And you have that in your 7th house. So this is actually one of the ways I was like, this is where you're going to make money, because I told you Hamilton's sign for Ingrid's sign on this Mars, you're in Cancer. Forward moving energy really has a lot of emotion in everything they do, but they're super passionate. So it's like when you can really find that thing you're passionate about, long as you're your emotion and your passion is involved, they are vigilant. You know, they're aggressive. They're aggressive. Like they're like crabs when you try to back a crab into a corner. Like it, they will. They're like a real life crab. They will clamp on, and you can cut the arm off of a crab. This is real life animal, and the crab will still be holding on,
Mm-hmm.
even after its arm is gone. It won't let go.
Okay.
So,
Right.
so when you two combine the two, right? He has uh, his is in Capricorn. It's an Earth energy, so it's grounded, and that Earth part of him can sustain
Yeah.
sustain a project. But your emotional side, because he needs a partner. His business, even though the way his business set up, without a partner, even though he has a forward pushing sign who can sustain as well, without a partner, he doesn't get the money. So he needs you as a part of that because your emotion is going to help fuel him where he doesn't have it. Because his earth sign is considered theoretically the least emotional. So it means that within his actions and how he takes actions and desire, he's going to be almost like a robot in some ways, almost like a robot, like just like, look, I'm a masculine energy and I have the least amount of emotion theoretically within my actions, and I just get things done. I get it. I push the narrative forward because it needs to be pushed forward. Like it's like it's
That's
I've
accurate.
noticed that I have a particular skill for like just diving into things that are usually considered extremely tedious.
yeah,
Like, I just get in a zone when I'm doing
guaranteed. Yeah,
It
guaranteed.
makes sense with the action oriented because obviously, like we have a lot of emotion in our
You
relationship.
have a lot of
That
emotion.
tends to be but with the action, like that's interesting that you say that specifically because I think he just is like, let's just get this thing done.
Exactly.
I come in, I'm like, okay, but also let's make sure we have it being presented in the most thorough way possible. Let's make sure that we've, made this look aesthetically how, you know what I mean? So that's definitely true.
It is a good
think about
balance
that.
because sometimes I get impatient. I'm just like, no, I just want to get it done, and
Right.
like that's my focus.
But it's good for me because he'll get it started, but then I'll come in and be like, wait, before we publish this, like, let's make sure XYZ, oh, look, there's a typo. Oh, look, that, so we do, that's really spot on.
What did you just say? Oh, look, there's a what?
Typo.
Because you have your Cancer in Virgo's house, the sixth house. What did I say earlier? Detail orientated. They don't miss a single thing. They
Yes.
don't miss.
To my detriment. I mean, that's the balance out too, but I will say that like that has been generally good. Because Hamilton will get something going, and then I'll be like, okay, let me come in and just research to make sure we got all the information we need. Let me make sure that aesthetically this is doing what it needs to do. Let's make sure we have the best photos we can for this, project or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You nurture it. You nurture the project. That's Cancers are nurturers. They're the mother of the zodiac. So you're nurturing the project. Without the nurture piece, his efforts are useless. He can push all he wants, but he needs a partner in business. That's where his house is at. It's in Libra's house, seventh. So even though he has that Capricorn where he can push it forward, he can just grind on it mindlessly. Like he cannot eat. He can just push everything out the way. He cannot sleep. He could just keep going like a freaking locomotive. But as a part of that, he'll miss all those details. He'll miss the nurturing piece behind it. He'll miss all the elements that you bring to the table.
That's really interesting.
Sometimes I think we've had trouble figuring out like what's the next step. What do we do? What's the best thing to do to continue this momentum?
Like me looking at your chart, I can tell you about you. I can't tell you about the next steps that's going to happen unless I talk to you about what's currently happening in the energetic field of space and time. Right? So I can tell you about how you're going to respond in those forms, but the moon shifts every 2 days.
Right.
That's your inner emotional world. The fact that you two are Cancers, the moon is your mother. So your moods are shifting every 2 days. So every 2 days is if you were able to abide by the energy that archetype has, that's how you begin to maximize. This is why you can't plan too far ahead, because you plan something for Friday, but sorry, the moon is in this space today on this Friday. So you're not going to have the emotional strength to pull it together. You're going to lay in bed. And if you knew that prior, you would say, look, no, Friday is not it's a bad day. The Fridays is going to be in this sign. We need to lay in bed. Hamilton, today we lay in bed. We don't move.
Are there people, so is what we're talking about now for anybody like, trying to explore this is something like the moon shifting every couple of days. Is that only going to deeply affect people who have a lot of Cancer showing up in their chart, or is that something that for
Everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Your body's 70% water. The tides shift, right? At the ocean, they shift based on how the moon is. So that affects everybody. You're a human being with 70% water. Anything that has water, the moon will affect it.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that has emotions, human beings, the moon will affect it. The moon was worshipped throughout history and the sun for a reason. So someone with Cancer placements, like you guys, we have a lot of them, you just get hit that much harder. Yes.
Totally.
And you get hit in those specific areas of your chart, which is different, right? Like your Cancer, you have one for your ego, your personality selves, okay, who you are behind the layer. You have one, okay, so I think Hamilton he has one for his son and Ingrid. So he has one for his personality self and his ego self. That's gonna shift every 2 days, right?
That's what. That's fucking.
But for Ingrid too, because both of your sons are in Cancer. That's your son. Your sun sign is what is your personality and ego self.
Mm-hmm.
So both of you two, you're gonna shift for different reasons because you have it in different houses. So Hamilton has it in his house of self, which means that his self will shift that much more. Ingrid, you have yours in your house of like your daily routines and your habits. So that means that your daily routines and your habits and maybe even how you set boundaries, all that is going to shift. Or who you take care of, how you take care of, and how much you take care of yourself. All that's going to shift for Ingrid specifically.
I feel like I'm driving her crazy sometimes because she's like, just yesterday you were saying that you want to do this, 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 and now you're totally different. And I'm just like, well, I changed my mind.
2 days. 2 days. 2 days is not a long time.
Yeah. That definitely hits.
Okay, let me look at this for Venus. So Ingrid, your Venus is in Taurus for your 4th house. So that's you being attracted to somebody who's really within their body, maybe. Somebody who's grounded. Okay. His whole action is Capricorn. That's all grounded, right? So you can be attracted to somebody who's grounded. You're gonna be attracted to somebody who can bring you wealth, actually, who can help you to raise a family, or to help you take care of the home. And whatever that means for you, taking care of the home can be different. It could be cleaning, it could be repairs, it could be bringing in the money for the home. I did see for part of your chart that like somebody that brings the money, somebody that brings the chicken is going to be something you're interested in. Because Taurus runs the house, they run money and they run possessions. So they really like the finer things, but they also not afraid to work for what they own. So
I think I'm in a sense like a minimalist, but the things I have, I want them to be the best things. I like quality. I like things that are built to last, and I think I look at stuff as like investments. And Hamilton knows this. Sometimes that drives him nuts because I'll spend hours looking for the best juicer.
Talk about research, researching. I'm like,
or what is
you really just spent 2 hours looking at trampolines.
Yeah, but guess what? But then when I get it, it's not gonna break, and it's not, it's gonna last, and it's gonna be something because I see it as an investment. Like when we're wanting to get a home and all that stuff, it's like I definitely want something that's built to last. So that's we love mid-century homes, and it's like those.
What's
homes
the key? What's the key you just said? What's the key you just said?
Built to last.
Built to last. That's everything within Taurus. This is how your Venus, you're attracted to somebody as well as going to be this person who can savor the moment. Like not only just think so fast, but like and especially within the home, especially within.
I eat very slow.
He does. I'm actually a fast eater. I try to eat slower, but within the home resonates. The home is, very much the grounding place for me, and like building a space. And I think Hamilton feels this way too, because we've talked about like building a space that feels like an out picturing of us that we can just, come and rest in and
It makes perfect sense.
celebrate in and share in. Totally. That's one
Makes
of
perfect
my
sense.
absolute visions.
Because the home part was for you. What you were attracted to was the savory eating from him. Those are two different signs, but they are in one sign, which was the Taurus, was in the Cancer's house, the fourth house. So the fourth house is your particular interest and motivation, the home,
Yeah.
inner emotional security.
Yeah.
For him, what you were attracted to was the Taurus. That was the slow, savory eating.
I just told him this last night that like I know that, you know, sometimes when we go through challenges, you talk about the ego challenges and things. His true self is that like very still, peaceful presence. And like when he's in that, that's when I feel the most attracted to him. That's when I'm like, man, there he is. Like that is the guy. You know, that's the guy I saw when I first looked in his eyes. I was like, that was the present.
It makes sense. I mean, that's a lot of his Pisces. You know, they're so detached from the ego. They just have an understanding. They just understand, like legit, like through and through. He naturally understands that about you already. You know, without you having to tell him. But like not just understand, but like I'm talking like full enlightenment on. No, I get this. And he gets that about me. He gets that about anyone he comes in contact with. It's part of his world. And on the vice versa for Hamilton and his Venus, he's attracted to Leo, and within the house of like communication. So basically, Leo is like a creative. They own the fun, love, romance, creativity. So he's attracted to somebody who's a person of love, a person of fun, a person who likes to play, a person who likes to shine bright on center stage and communicate their message, aka an actor. He's attracted to an actor. He's attracted to a poet. He's attracted to anyone that does anything creative. Creative people turn him on, period.
Everybody, all my relationships have been like creative, artistic people, and Ingrid definitely fits the bill. That was what we were talking about.
And especially people that express it.
Yeah.
Because it's in that communication house. Yeah. So those would be the areas I would focus on.
Yeah.
And what I'll say is, if you ever want to do another one and get a little deeper, there's these are all surface level, superficial things, right? These are things that, like, for our human existence, like, it'll excite them, but everything past the seventh house, okay, great, you got the partnership. We're talking about Libra, the partnerships. You got the partnership. Everything past that is where you start getting into the soul work of that partnership. You only got the partner at number 7. You still have 5 more houses on how to transcend that love.
We just made a video about this that's going to go out today, saying it's like, you know, so many people focus on getting the love or manifesting the person or getting this specific person in their life. And it's sense like, that's just the beginning. That's not the ending. That's not the happy ending. Like, we just getting started at that point. So I love that you keep parroting back things that we were just talking about, you know, and saying the thing about me and being expressive. Yep. He was just saying last night, I feel like, you know, you just want to express your true self and be big and, you know, and share your creative self.
Her true self is big and fabulous. I was like, it's almost like Diana Ross type energy. I just see you singing and dancing and just being friggin' like fabulous on stage. Like,
that's Leo. That's your Leo attraction all the way. You need that big personality. You're gonna always be attracted to that big personality, you know, who also could be a little like, so Leo's like, they love drama. Leos love drama. Oh. So somebody that could be a little dramatic, and that doesn't have to be a loud dramatic either. You know, that can be any type, because dramatic is also poetry. So that's what I mean. Somebody that's going to express that. So basically, the more pieces you do that you allow your emotions to flow through, the more you're going to capture his heart.
Mm-hmm. That's sweet. I like that. I feel like that's a really good place to kind of stop for now, because I know that we could just keep going on this. Yeah, I'm just gonna art him up. He's not gonna do this himself. I'm just gonna be like, you know, expressing.
I guess we'll bring it back to twin flames. You know, anybody that are twin flames, because I know this is one of the big things we wanted to circle on, that are watching this. For starters, thank you, appreciate you. I'm also gonna say, you know, stay strong. And I'm also going to say, allow yourself to be weak when those times come, because it's a dynamic balance. You know, twin flame relationships are not for the faint of heart. When you know you need to let go on that release phase of it, let go, whatever that means, it's going to change. It doesn't mean you have to lose your relationship. But if you're looking at astrology as part of a guide, I would say to really focus on it. The Venus, the Mars, and the Moon are really great places to check, but don't just look at the zodiac itself. Find yourself to get into the houses of that zodiac within those planets, because then you're getting specific. The houses are actually more important than the zodiac itself. That's how you get beneath the superficial layer, and everything twin flames is beneath the superficial layer. So thank you for having me on your show.
Absolutely. Well,
Pernell
this has
Bobby,
been
thank
awesome.
you.
Where can people find you if they want to delve into this deeper? How can they connect with you?
My name shows up on everything. Pernell Bobby. Yeah, Instagram, YouTube.
We're gonna make sure to share the links for your
Okay, cool. Thanks.
everywhere we can find you. Down
Yeah,
below.
if somebody wants a natal reading, come
Yeah.
holler at your boy. Or even if you're just looking to get like a forecast of what's happening because you're struggling, because a lot of people are right now, and that's okay. You know, I know what's happening right now up there, and I'm telling you, I'm struggling in many my own ways, even knowing it. Like some of these days, I just like I'm going to sleep. I went to sleep the other day, just the middle of the day, which is so uncharacteristic for me. But I'm like, forget it. I'm going to sleep. I'm taking a reset button.
Dude, sometimes that's all we could do.
Yeah.
And this has been just so interesting talking to you. I think it's a great preview of what people can get from, hitting you up and getting some insight into this.
Yes,
I mean,
and
I
all
feel
of
like I
our-
can talk about this all day.
Absolutely. Like all of our people watching, please go and subscribe to his channel. And we would love to have your people come over to our channel and just kind of create this awesome community. Share this video with anybody you feel like would find it interesting. Tell us what you learned from this. If you dive into your natal charts, or if you have a certain someone you're looking at and you learn something about them, like tell us what your experiences are in the comments. We would love to hear about it. And maybe we could get back together with you again sometime. I'm sure.
Let's do a recap and just to even keep it super specific for these twin flames on here, because we work on that twin flame algorithm. So I'm keep saying twin flame, twin flames, twin flames.
that twin flame rhythm, that twin flame algorithm.
That's what it is. So all those twin flames down there, put in the comment box. I would recommend on Ingrid and Hamilton, the twin flames page, put your moon, put your Venus, and put your Mars sign down there. And what I'll do is when they tell me they put the video up, I'll try to check back daily throughout at least a week from the time they post it. And I'll just try to give some tidbits on, put you in your partner's moon, your Venus, and your Mars. I'll get in the comment box and I'll interact with you guys. And other than that, you can reach out to me personally if you want to get a reading yourself.
Love that.
Awesome. That's a great thing, guys. Take advantage of it, because he's got some awesome insights here and some amazing intuition. So, enjoy the rest of your day. We've had a great time.
Big love. I'll see you soon.
Enjoy that sun in Mexico. I'm jealous.
I know, right?
It's hot.
I miss the heat. I want to be hot.
Go jump in the ocean, man.
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day. I love.
All right, man.